should record this so we can share it later on social. And yeah, welcome everybody. Thanks for joining, and excited to share this with you guys. We've talked on this topic in a variety of places, and it's actually funny, today I will give this talk twice, once now in this webinar, and then tonight at a CEO dinner here in South Florida. So with that, I think everybody can see my screen, hopefully. And off we go. Cool. So agile growth is something that we've been using at TSL now, I think, for 9 years, but over the last year, we've formalized it more and more just because there has been a lot of demand from outside, from other peer groups. And what it's really about is about gamifying career paths and developing them in a way that is attractive for talent and people in your team, and to attract and retain great talent. So a couple words about myself. I'm the founder and CEO of the Server Logic. That's a badge I wear. And I've also, Waystones is one of the products. I'm a mentor in a couple places such as Tech Runway and the VMT. And just really enjoy building technology in a variety of places. But Waystones came across because I started TSL, and there were just certain conversations that I didn't fully enjoy. And I'll get into that in a second, but we did the who's here already. So raise and retention. This concept was born about 9 years ago or so. TSL is about to turn 11 in October. And in the early days, there was certain conversations that would always happen to me. And it was really the only conversations that would happen to me with employees. So employees would come to me and be like, hey, David, do you have a moment? Can you talk? Can I talk to you in your office? And it was really only for 2 reasons. And those were not exciting ones, because they were either 1, can I have a raise? Or 2, I'm leaving because I have this other job opportunity that got offered to me. And that just didn't feel really great. So my answer usually was, no, I'm packed for the rest of the week and next week, and nope, don't have any time. So sorry, I'll talk. I'll catch up soon. But it forced me to, like, it was really a terrible conversation that I didn't really want to have. So at some point I realized, look, this is a conversation that I'm gonna have with every employee at some point. One day, everybody's gonna ask me, can I have a raise or look for more money? And if they don't ask, they're just going to resign and go somewhere else because they want to avoid the question. Since it is an awkward question, people don't like asking it, and it doesn't make for usually a great conversation. Some people enjoy it. Some people are really confident. They're fine with it. But most people, I've learned, do not enjoy this conversation. And from my perspective, I don't either, because a lot of people come to it really unprepared. So they just ask, yeah, I think I should make XYZ because I Googled my job title and that's what Google says. Or I got an offer from some recruiter that says he can get me some more money. So it just came to this situation where it was a not very enjoyable conversation that I wanted to turn around. So instead of waiting for someone to come to me and be like, hey, David, could I have a raise? We switched it over to, let's just assume everybody's going to ask, and let's plan ahead for that. Let's plan for that this question is going to come. And instead of waiting for it, let's have the discussion today. So it moved earlier and earlier. It would be, in the beginning, it was like after someone's been around for a couple of months or a year. And then now it actually is right as people get hired. In their final interview, we already have the conversation of, okay, let's evaluate. Where are you at today? And then would you want to be in the next 1, 2, 3 years? And let's see what milestones would fit on your journey there that can help you get there, so that you have this journey ahead of you. And with that, we then, as this became more and more formal, people would ask me, people for outsiders in my Vistage group, my other peer groups would ask, hey, David, you have this really cool career development tool. Can I have a copy of it? Back then, this was a Google Doc. And I was like, no, you can't have a copy of my shitty looking Google Doc. That's embarrassing. No. But hey, I do build software for a living, so let me maybe make a tool out of this so I can actually share it. And then also with the help of Anna and Alice, we actually put this together in a way that it became much more tangible and became a thing that we could now have a tool for, but also make a training out of it, make some materials that we can just share with the world. Those are published on our blog. So check that out afterwards. We're publishing new content weekly or every other week, just to help people on this journey. And so in preparing for a couple talks, we actually did some research and found out that yes, reasons to quit, the top reasons, according with some data from McKinsey, are lack of career development and inadequate compensation, which are very tied together. And then if you go to the next ones, lack of meaningful work or uncaring, uninspiring leaders, it all really ties together and can be solved by having those growth opportunities ahead of you, which make then for that you can develop your career, grow, but also modify your compensation by learning more. And then we took it over and looked at some other really, common concepts, such as Maslow's pyramid. Almost everybody has seen this at some point in their school time, where taking the analogy from this, in most places, we also have, like, the bottom two parts of the pyramid, we cover really well. I mean, by paying team members money, we take care of their, physiological needs of food and shelter, because they can pay for that with their salary. We also, if we do health insurance, we got safety needs covered, health. And if the company has a great culture, we also have love and belonging. But the ones that are usually overlooked are esteem and self-actualization. The growth part is missing for people to really see, hey, here's a journey that aligns with my passions, because there's a huge difference if you're passionate about what you're doing versus just working. And I then looked at, I'm a big fan of Tony Robbins. He also has the spiritual needs. Growth is on the top two of the spiritual needs. So what all of this has in common is that growth is just such an important part to us in order to feel alive. And in most places, we got other parts of compensation really well dialed down and figured out. We got payments in all sorts of ways, from salaries, commissions, bonuses, profit share, stocks. We got really creative. The list goes on. And then the list on the benefits, especially in the tech world, really goes long. I mean, this is the really short version, but there's like gear and swag, and then remote stipends and gym membership. And we got really creative of what all the benefits could be. But what's usually missing is this drive for growth, or the accessibility of growth. And that's what we really wanted to focus on with this. And that's where the concept of a milestone was born, so that we could have this measurable, self-guided objective that anybody in an organization can achieve. And for today, I'm going to walk through a little bit of some inspirations of how you can take that back to your organizations and use the concept to see, how do I put this into my organization or inspire my leadership or use my team members to use this, and be it if you tie it to compensation or just use it for the ability to help people grow. And before we dive into that, just a few things on that helped inspire this is, for one, cross-functionality. Everybody that's anywhere in the Scrum world has heard of, or many others as well, have heard of T-shaped skills, where if you just know one thing, that's your I shape. But then the goal is some T-shaped, where you're just broadening, you're learning other things that aren't your main core focus, so that you are more versatile, more flexible. You can cover work from others and can dive in there. So, and for folks joining a little later, don't worry, you've missed the background, but we're just about to dive into the really meaty stuff, so you're just in time. So on the note of cross-functionality, there's just many dimensions. You can see it as the T-shaped skills, or just this little spider chart because it's one of the visuals that we make for our teams. But for me, the most important was to take the classic view, the traditional view of a career ladder, which is very linear, to form it more into something like a trellis. So people can expand in different directions. Oh, maybe I want to learn a bit as a software engineer. Maybe I want to learn a little design or product design or DevOps infrastructure, and I can expand in different directions. Because traditionally you have this model where you have some usually time-based. You got to have some years that pass by, or you need your boss to retire or get promoted in order to fill that spot and rise up in the ranks. Which we wanted to change to this more trellis-like version that also has a good amount of inspiration from video games, because that's what I played plenty of when I was younger. And it's just taking the different levels and skills that people can have and allowing them to see their journey. How can I get to this architect level 1? Okay, I got backend or front-end level 1, which I got, so that's done, but I still need backend level 1 and level 2. So I got to knock out this one. I'm like 20% there. Once I finish that, I unlock this architect. And designing journeys in a way that people can achieve them. So with that, we're going to dive into the designing of a journey. For this part, it is ideal if you take a quick piece of paper or anything where you can type, where you can handwrite. I like writing, but just anything where you can take some quick notes to jot down some ideas, because we'll do a quick sample of this flow. So step 1 is the inspiration. And I'm going to go through the beginning and the shorter version of this process, so that I get you guys a good idea. And if you like it, we will share at the end some of the materials so that you can take this back to your organization. So step 1 is pick a role, and ideally pick something in your organization that either has high turnover or that you have a lot of employees in. And the reason for that is that it's really hard to design something for just a single person. It's doable, but it just the ideas are going to flow much better if you do it. So we started with software engineer because we have about 50 software engineers out of the 73 people. And even back then, when we were only like 10, 15, still software engineer was the main role in the company. And it also had most retention issues. So choose that role, pick something in the organization that this applies to. And then that's also important why it's good that you pick something that has multiple people. Pick the 3 most valuable employees in that role. And I say 3 because it's not just, you might have one person that you really love in the role, but most people aren't perfect. That person's going to have some strengths and weaknesses, and we'll ignore the weaknesses and just look at the strengths. And those strengths, it's usually easier if we pick it from a variety of people. So if we pick these 3 folks, then now list out what are their traits, what makes them special, what makes them stand out. Why did you think of them as your 3 most valuable people? And a check that you can do mentally is that if you could clone those 3 people infinitely, you could dominate the market. So that's sort of the mental check. Is there what's missing? And that's why I say 3, not just 1, because one person, you might have some shortcomings. But with 3, usually you can make that relatively well-rounded. And then, at least for that role, dominate the market. And this can be soft skills, technical skills, certifications, the way they are. It can be all sorts of things. Don't limit yourself. Just write down whatever comes to mind in order to get this first bunch of ideas down on paper. And so I'll give you just a second, and then I'm going to show an example for the QA position that we'll use for this talk, so that you can just see what an example is. But I want to give you guys a moment to just write down some of the stuff for your whatever role you picked. All right, so I'll go into the example, and this is intentionally, we'll go and make this much, much more detailed. But the idea is just, here's some inspiration. For example, for an QA, quality assurance tester, she's good and can catch bugs before we release to production. Helps identify risks. Can tell when QA is complex. Communicates during refinement. Communicates findings. So these are just some ideas. And the list could be really long. Oftentimes when we do this workshop live and in person, we will cluster a whole wall with Post-its that we can then rearrange and do the next steps with. But so if you do it with your organization, then my tip is, if you are in person or with Miro, we can also share a sample Miro that you can use for this. So recommendation, yeah, either in person do it either in person with Post-it notes that you can put up on the wall, or a Miro. Email us and we'll send you our pre-made Miro board where you can just very easily also do the same collaborative process and go step by step through this. So as you have your ideas, now mark some symbols in front of them and let's group them. And the grouping is to organize these ideas into something that the ideas that you just wrote down, put them together into how they fit together. It could be, these are the organizational skills and your technical skills, or here are Microsoft skills, whatever it is, as well as remove any duplicates that you can find on there. So that you can then have these groups, have them cleaned up. If there's two similar ones, you can add them together. And it will just help you visualize all of the different categories and the different skills and just start organizing your thoughts. So here are some people skills, Excel skills, communication, data science, and the example. So the list that I just showed 2 slides ago, this list is now, we have that also grouped into, okay, experience, people skills, and knowledge. And again, that's just, it's one way to slice this. You can have that's why come up with your own groupings and see how to put those together. And now we start getting into the juicy parts. So just so I don't speed through it too much, are you guys good on moving along and good grouping your examples? Cool. Then I will go into modeling. So now we've just had some, like, she's a good QA and catches bugs before they go to production. We turn those descriptions into traits so that it's more the skills or knowledge that that person needs to obtain. And the overall goal here is that we move from, you definitely get a raise, you just need to be a better QA, to move that to something just a lot more tangible, because that's not a helpful statement. That's just the go away, I don't want to talk to you statement that is not even meant with malintent, but it's just, that's how the system works most of the times now. So instead, if we give people, here's what you can improve, then it makes it a lot easier for them to actually work on those skills. So we want to define what are the attributes, what makes those traits, and make them as objective and specific as possible so that the person knows, okay, this is what I need to do in order to demonstrate this. And sometimes that can be a course or a certification. Other times it's a task, or it's having done a certain task multiple times. I like to not do just a certificate, but if we do a certificate, we also give some sort of task so that the person can actually demonstrate it in the context of the organization. What is the skill set that I've just demonstrated and that I've just gone through? And so here we also turn just the very first line we had in our example. She's a good QA and can catch bugs before we release to production. We turn that into knows about the overall flow of the systems, and so it understands the features, creates a test plan, follows the test plan before a release, creates bugs and suggests prioritization. So now one of these inspiration statements turns into multiple attributes and skill sets that we feel are relevant in order to embody this specific skill set. And then we want to see which of these. So if we look at now this set of them, good is one level, but usually we want to make this a path so that you can't just be the best QA in the world right away, or the best software engineer, or the best call center representative, or the best waiter or virtual assistant, whatever you're doing this role for. But you're not going to be the best possible right away. So we want to make this a path. We want to section it into the different levels. And we use levels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You could use basic, intermediate, pro. You could use novice to sensei, whatever you come up with and that fits the culture of your organization. But the goal is to see what's required at what level. And again, on the left, you see what we just had, the different skills that we just interpreted for that first trait with attributes. And now we want to make them in these 3 levels, basic, intermediate, and pro, to show, all right, this is what we expect a basic QA to know. And this is the intermediate, and this is for the pro. So now anybody in that role already knows, cool, here's what I need to know in order to be considered for this level. And then comes the most important part, to make whatever we come up with here measurable. And making it measurable is it's so crucial, because that's what drives people. We all like collecting points, leveling up in games. And there's plenty enough times that I get sucked into Instagram ads that show me some game where I can level up, or level up some building or some other nonsense, or an underground bunker, so that it just helps people if there is something achievable and they can move a progress bar and move the needle. So what we do is we remove, so instead of SMART goals, same letters, just we remove the T part. And someone told me, hey, just make it RAM, so it's still a word that you can remember. But I removed the time-bound part, because for me, just waiting for time to pass isn't that valuable. And I don't want to punish people that are very merit-based and eager to learn and grow by saying to them, yep, you got to be around for 2 years in order to get to this next level. No, if they do it in 6 months, I'm a happy camper, because they just leveled up much faster than expected. So ask yourself, how do you validate that they've achieved this level? Like, what does when we had our list of know everything, be a good QA, that we turned into these, knows about the overall flow of the system, how do we measure that? Ask yourself, for every one of those attributes, how can I know this is done? And then include some sort of measurement for each of the attributes, and be creative. Try different tools, try different techniques. Sometimes it's a conversation that validates it. Sometimes it's them having completed a certain type of projects. Sometimes it's them completing a course and scoring on a certain level. There's a wide variety of ways how you can identify that something is done. And sometimes you might even split it, that you say, okay, if you reach this score, you're there. Or if you have done it, if you've completed, I don't know, let's make a journey for a waitress or waiter, waiting staff. And if you've done it, if you've served 100 tables, you're level 1. But if you've served 500 tables, or in our context, if you've built 10 features versus 100 features, that upgrades your levels. So now we can make these as the measurements, knows about the system, creates test cases based on the features that the team works on, shares the test cases, and all stories have a link to the test cases. Now, these are checklist items now. These are items that now someone in that role can be like, yep, I've done this, this, and this. So that they can see, okay, I'm missing, I still got to work on this next part and this part, but now I know what I've completed already, so that I see what's missing, I see what's completed, and there's a much more very direct guideline on here's what's necessary. Creates and uses predefined test data. 95% of test cases and test scenarios include test data. So sometimes you also want to just have a threshold that, perfection is near impossible. So let's not say 100%, but 95% of test cases have some test data, which again, that's verifiable. And in our organization, the Scrum Masters verify that things are completed, but you can just do peer groups. We have one organizations that we're implementing this right now with. They have nurture groups where there's 3 people, 3 peers that always reflect on each other, give each other feedback, and now can also track things this way to see how they're doing. And that really defines how we make a journey. That's the core parts. There's 2 more steps. Defining prerequisites is helpful because, of course, if you have a level 1, 2, 3, it's obvious you should need level 1 before level 2. But sometimes you might also say, okay, for architect, you need this level 2 and this level 1 and this level 2 in order to just define what sequence do you want people to do things in. And then the last part is to decide who approves when something's completed. Who is maybe the reviewer and who is the approver? In our case, the Scrum Masters are the first round of reviewers. And then because we're a small organization, I'm the approver. Once something is completed, I'm the one that says, yep, looks like that's all completed, but I have all the nice pre-work from team members and Scrum Masters that say, yes, this has been completed, and here's how, and here's the validation for all of it. And one part that's been really, really great for us and powerful is the decentralizing part. So all the initial milestones I wrote myself, but at some point we just got to a size where that was getting harder and harder. So at some point I turned this over to the teams, and it was a wonderful and powerful experience to watch, because now there were so many more ideas. Why limit things to just one brain? And that's why I also encourage, this is not an HR task. This is really a task for everybody involved in order to see how things are going, what are the most necessary skills, and how can we get people to input and contribute, because those team members might have different viewpoints. If you say you design a software engineering journey for software engineers, then other software engineers have one viewpoint. QA might have a different viewpoint. Product owners have a different viewpoint. Designers have a different viewpoint of what makes for a great software engineer. And you want to get sort of all of those 2 ideas together to see this is really the ideal software engineer, and these are the skills that that person would have. And it just allows you to leverage so many more brains, but also now it's a lot more buy-in from everybody that, yes, this is how we do this. This is how we structure this to make it much, much more powerful and just fleshed out. There's so many ideas I wouldn't have had and thought of by myself, by inviting everybody else in. And to conclude, we have every month we do, instead of an annual review, we do quarterly one-on-ones and then a quick monthly check-in just to see, hey, how are you doing overall, but also any of your milestones that you're blocked on. Do you need help on anything here? Which just allows for a good flow of information and feedback. And if there are blockers, we can help people along. And that's to avoid, because what happens with annual performance reviews is if something went off the rails, you wait a whole year and you just lost a whole year of making the progress that you wanted to, which then either leads by management being upset that why aren't you where you should be, but also the person thinking, oh, I expected my 7% raise this year because I thought I really kicked ass. But in reality, I'm getting a 2% raise because management thought I was going to do XYZ and I didn't. So by shortening the cycles, you also shorten the cycles of feedback and when things can be delivered and done. Plus, if you do an annual thing, I mean, who in December remembers what was going on in January and February and March? I mean, it's really what went on in November and December. All the rest of the year, who knows? So by shortening the cycles, that's why we do the quarterly and then have the monthly check-ins. It's information is really fresh and you can take a lot more action on it. And as I mentioned really early in the presentation, we've even expanded this, that instead of doing just some offer letters or some random offers based on Google data, we now base all our offers. And when we hire people, also on, look, here's the journey that we'll see you walking through and that you would be on when you join the ServerLogic. And what are your current skill sets? where would you fall in here? What do you think, based on running through all of them, which ones do you feel comfortable knowing today? And then based on that, let's see where you can be in the future. So this now, I let most folks self-evaluate. I walk them through, here's all our milestones. Now, take a look at where do you think you stand? And people evaluate themselves very honestly. To my surprise, I thought people would just claim, oh yeah, I know everything. But once there's this measurability and transparency, people become a lot more honest with themselves and appreciate that level of fairness, that here's how everybody gets evaluated. So I'm okay not getting my special package, but rather be treated like everybody else. And with that, to get you guys a little bit of a demo of Waystones, I'm just going to show some of the screens. So Waystones was the tool that, after too many people asked me if they can share or have a copy of my ugly little Google Doc, which had all of this information, we turned this into a tool. And that's where the screenshot from earlier came from, so that you can just have a really easy way. So this is the interface where you see your workspace, your different peoples, your journeys of this person. So here I'm looking at Zoe in Team Alpha, and I see what are the different milestones. And Zoe here is looking at the architect milestone, and she sees, cool, Django level 2 I've gotten, but I need to still do React level 2 and DevOps level 1. And that's where she sees the different little lines that show her what's missing, but she then also sees what's required for architect level 1. And that's where all of these that we talked about, the attributes and the measurables, that's what then you have a really easy space to flow into here and see them, how they can. This is just what makes Waystones, makes it really easy. Once you have the ideas, jot down a couple of the bullet points, and now people can measure it and can work with this. And then they can see their different journeys. And we recommend you can have a variety. For example, here Zoe is interested in software development and product design. So she's probably going to go really down on the software development journey as her deep skill, but she'll learn a little bit of product design and expand her fundamentals. And with that, I invite everybody that joined you today that you can sign up for Waystones. And with this, you'll get the first 6 months of Waystones free. So you can really play with it, explore it. And if you email me, I will also show you or send you our guide that we usually do during the workshop that we give as a take home. But you can just email me and I'll send you that. So it's the longer version of what we went through in the slides, to get people a good idea of how it all sort of comes together and how to get started. Alrighty, with that, I'll open it up to questions to you guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope this was helpful.
David, yeah, that was great. Thank you. I like this a lot. And as someone who's done a lot of sales training, including training managers on how to be sales coaches versus being detailed managers, this is, I think, a tool that could definitely help them out. Question I had, which I know is not the technical side, but I think this can go across any job function. So I was really impressed with that.
That's why I made the example of like a waiting staff. I mean, it doesn't need to be software engineers. We have, of course, many examples for software engineers and QA and all the technical roles, but yes, it's not bound by that.
Yeah, so I could see, sales coaches, sales consultants, and HR consultants wanting to put this into their clients, for example, as one possible route. But so I think it was great. One thing I may have missed when you were talking about the monthly check-ins, the quarterly reviews, which I also love because I hate when any employee shows up to a performance review and they have no idea what to expect. I mean, the historical side should be a 1-minute conversation. The next 59 minutes or longer should be about the future, right? And this tool kind of starts to give more ability to do that. But do you document inside of Waystones the monthly check-ins and the quarterly reviews to lead, or did I miss that? I know you were talking about it.
So we do it not as here's your monthly review, and let me pick someone. Anna or Alice, who do I pick? I think yesterday we had Panta was our example.
Yeah, I was thinking.
So here, what usually gets updated there is that, for example, here you see April, you see you pretty much see the monthly check-ins. There was the April one, the May one, the June one, and there's the update on how far they have gotten in their respective months. So here he's trying to get to 500 points, and the progression is documented every month. And other comments can be left. So that's why everything has comments, and there's overall comments, so that it can be easily documented on what progress was made between one and the next.
I think that's great, because what drove me nuts was, when I was in field sales in pharma, we would do ride-alongs with the salespeople and then have to write a coaching report. And then you do a mid-year review, and then you do a final year review. But at the mid-year and final year review, I'd have to pull up the coaching reports and copy and paste to create the documentation for the mid-year and the final year. So having it already in here is a step that makes that easier, because they used Word documents to create the coaching report. So now you're really talking about a mess trying to pull up all these different files and from different, from throughout the year. So I think this is great.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
Victor,
David, if I may add,
Yeah.
sorry, about the reporting specific, if you scroll all the way down, because I don't know if you noticed here the progress bar at the beginning where David was sharing like the progress on the different milestones, and specifically under the guidepost, for example, resolve 500 points completed independently. Like, you then have comments based on the review and on the conversation that the Scrum Master had with this person. But then on all the way down, you also have the history. So if let's say in January this person completed, I don't know, 200 points, you will see here like when was this reported, right? So you have that history of the progress that they have made through the months and in which specific let's call it goal. That was it. Thanks.
Yep. So that's where just all of these, and we're adding also overall comments, and you can also then mark that this is my next step, so that now in my profile I can also see here's my look ahead. So I'm right now here, and once I finish this 2.1, I will be at this level. So you can also see and forecast that salary, so that it gets exciting about, oh, cool. So if I finish this and this, I'll be at 51K. Or if I finish these things, then I'll be at 100K. And then, as we mentioned, the different journeys, and this is the team view, where you can see how balanced are the teams. And here, for example, okay, Team Pork, we need to up the DevOps, or let's do Team Mars. Here, relatively balanced, and there's really advanced architecting stuff on there. So it just gives us a nice overview of seeing how the different teams are doing. And I can also see, cool, so who else in here in my team here is doing something in DevOps. So I can ask now, cool, let me ask Nick and Mathieu, because they've completed this already. Let me ask them how they did it and where they struggled and what happened there, so that they can help me out. So Victor, I didn't ask in the beginning, what industry or what type of company are you in?
Yeah, so basically now I've just moved into private equity funds, moving from the hedge funds. So now I'm working for a company called Ubon Partners, and we basically set up various startups in the tech industry. So we've got companies such as Neat. I don't know if you know, Neat is NEAT, Next DLP as well. So we do work with a lot of software engineers. That's why I also joined this call, just to have an idea of what you can offer. Because I did tell one of the founders about you guys, and I said I'll join and share with them this to see if something they can implement in one of their startup companies. In the growth startup companies in the UK, in the US, in Norway as well. So yeah, so that's where I am at the moment.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely. I mean, sign them up, make the organization, and once you're in, you can use the promo code, so you can just play with it, and feel free to reach out to us. I had my contact info here, but I mean, you have the very direct contact that can also.
I do. No, I actually did try to use you guys in my old job, but it didn't go ahead. Not you as Waystones, but you as Silver Logic. But I will I'll mention this to the founders in the near future. We've got a meeting next week, and it'd be good to receive some sort of marketing material or something that you may have, so I can share with them as well. To see if they want to proceed with using you guys as well.
Awesome. Yeah, sounds good. I'll send you a little follow-up on some materials. And then, yeah, if you want to play with Waystones, just, Anna and Alice can also help you to set something up, come up with the journeys, because that's why we give this talk now on a regular basis, because that's the tricky part. Come up with the first materials that you want to put on there. But then once you have that, then you really see the response and the how powerful it is and how nice it is to just have it be in your organization.
Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
Awesome. I'm gonna pause the screen share and recording then.